endorsement of Harris and Waltz right after. She has 283 million followers on Instagram, and I'm sure that someone brought to your attention that she signed it, childless cat lady. This is a phrase that you are going to hear in your dreams and your nightmares probably for many years to come. How do you speak to women voters who obviously they care about what she thinks?
Of course. Well, look, we admire Taylor Swift's music, but I don't think most Americans, whether they like her music or fans of hers or not, are going to be influenced by a billionaire celebrity who I think is fundamentally disconnected from the interests and the problems of most Americans. Look, when grocery prices go up by 20%, it hurts most Americans. It doesn't hurt Taylor Swift. When housing prices become unaffordable, it doesn't affect Taylor Swift or any other billionaire. It does affect middle-class Americans all over our country.
I don't think people will be influenced by a billionaire celebrity who's fundamentally disconnected from the interests and problems of most Americans. Was JD Vance listening to himself, or has he met his boss?
The other thing is I was very famous then. If I would have walked into Bergdorf Goodman, the department store that she said, everybody would have said, oh, there's Trump. And it would have been, at that time, on page 6. Page 6 was the equivalent of today's internet on a celebrity line where I was the celebrity. I was been a celebrity for a long time. Her husband, and lots of other people are online. It's a celebrity line. I had the book, The Art of the Deal. I was famous then, too. I've been famous for a long time. I believe I had some pretty big success then, and I was being talked about a lot. Maybe The Art of the Deal was out, sometime after that. I'm not sure. But I was well known. So think of the impracticality of this. I'm famous.
Not only does he constantly want people to know he was a celebrity, but also a billionaire who's so disconnected from most Americans, he has no idea that tariffs harm consumers or that he lost that last debate. He did have some thoughts on Taylor Swift endorsing Kamala Harris, though.
Out of nowhere, after the debate last night, Taylor Swift endorsed Kamala Harris. What do you think?
Well, I actually like Mrs. I actually like Mrs. Mahomes much better, if you want to know the truth. She's a big Trump fan. I was not a Taylor Swift fan. It was just a question of time. She couldn't. You couldn't possibly endorse Biden. You look at Biden, you couldn't possibly endorse him. But she's a very liberal person. She seems to always endorse a Democrat. And she'll probably pay a price for it in the market.
Sure, Taylor Swift will pay the price in the market for her endorsement. She'll be broke by Election Day after MAGA boycotts all of her concerts. The simplicity in his thought process is mind-boggling. Instead of recognizing the things that she clearly listed in her endorsement, all he can connect her to is that she's dating a Kansas City Chiefs player who's a teammate of Patrick Mahomes, whose wife is a Trump supporter. To him, it's a competition of recognizable names, one of which he couldn't even remember, rather than an assessment of why many people reject him. This is all he knows about Taylor Swift.
What do you think about Taylor Swift? One of the most famous people right now.
Yeah, I think she's beautiful, very beautiful. I find her very beautiful. I think she's liberal. She probably doesn't like Trump, but I hear she's very talented. But I think she's very beautiful, actually. Unusually beautiful.
It's obvious that he never read her post listing her reasons, but Megyn Kelly did, and she's raging about her refusal to hate more people.
Oh my God. So this woman is fine with his plan to take custody of the children from parents who don't want them to chop off their body parts and put them in Minnesota court's custody so the body parts can be chopped off and they can be sterilized outside the custody of their parents. That's what led Taylor Swift to endorse him.
Okay, pause for a second. Let me just read the portion of her statement that has Megyn Kelly talking about chopping off body parts. I was so heartened and impressed by her selection of running mate Tim Walz, who's been standing up for LGBTQ plus rights, IVF, and a woman's right to her own body for decades. That led Kelly to damn near pull her hair out and rant about chopping off body parts.
Can I tell you something? I criticized her about 6 months ago when she came out strongly in favor of, she went to a fundraiser to raise money for Hamas, supposedly Palestinians, but the group that was doing the fundraising was known to funnel the money to Hamas. And I said, people should boycott her. It was an offhanded comment. People went nuts. Some lunatic dropped a note in my personal mailbox outside my house begging me not to boycott Taylor Swift, as though I have that power. I'm allowed to criticize Taylor Swift, and I don't give a who gets upset. This is disgusting. If she wants to vote Harris-Walz, she can do it all she wants. But to say the reason she's doing it is because of Tim Walz's stance on LGBTQ, F you, Taylor Swift, and F all of the people who want to see these children have body parts chopped off and watch them sterilized under the age of consent, and then will ride off to their multi-gazillion-dollar mansions, never to think of them again. Emily, this is unbelievable. The left is losing its mind. She signed it Taylor Swift, childless cat lady.
I guess she didn't read it, considering she thinks that Swift wrote that she's endorsing them over that when she had other reasons that conservative talkers don't want to repeat. Recently, I was made aware that AI of me falsely endorsing Donald Trump's presidential run was posted to his site. It really conjured up my fears around AI and the dangers of spreading misinformation. It brought me to the conclusion that I need to be very transparent about my actual plans for this election as a voter. The simplest way to combat misinformation is with the truth. I'll be casting my vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in the 2024 presidential election. I'm voting for Kamala Harris because she fights for the rights and causes I believe need a warrior to champion them. I think she's a steady-handed, gifted leader, and I believe we can accomplish so much more in this country if we're led by calm and not chaos. I was so heartened and impressed, and that's when she started talking about Tim Walz. There's clear reasons that MAGA has to yell and scream about chopping off body parts and they're eating the dogs, because if they pay attention to the parts about misrepresenting her position when she hadn't said anything, or how she prefers a steady hand, or the better approach of calm over chaos, they'd have to confront the fact that Trump is a chaotic liar. And since they can't defend the indefensible, they just go with mocking their perceived enemies and conjuring up old bigoted tropes.
Taylor Swift endorses Kamala Harris on Instagram. After the debate on ABC, proudly calls herself a childless cat lady. Taylor Swift, you are a young, pretty girl. Do you know what the gang members from Venezuela do to young, pretty girls? It ain't pretty.
Why are this many people willing to morph into Donald Trump in order to support him? Or, in many cases of conservative pundits, willing to act like it's cool to promote the thought of getting a person assaulted and murdered because they didn't endorse Trump's hatred. All they've got is creepiness. Elon Musk responded to Swift with this: "Fine, Taylor, you win. I'll give you a child and guard your cats with my life." It might be time to reassess what they think a joke is, when it tends to be driven by creepy visions of giving a woman a child that doesn't want anything to do with you. It's sad that normal responses are now something to be highlighted to cleanse our brains from MAGA's normalcy of repulsiveness.
This was, I don't think you know about this, but this was just posted online by a woman you might have heard of whose name is Taylor Swift. And she says, quote, "I will be casting my vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in the 2024 presidential election."
All those things, I am incredibly grateful, first of all, to Taylor Swift. I say that also as a cat owner, a fellow cat owner. Look, Swifties, you heard it. We know that it's there. That was eloquent, and it was clear. And that's the type of courage we need in America to stand up. We've seen it out of those Republicans who were at the DNC. We've seen it out of women who would like to have their own personal lives kept personal, but are forced to go out there because they nearly died because they can't get abortion services in a pregnancy. And now you have somebody like Taylor Swift coming out, making that very clear. This would be the opportunity, Swifties,